This is Land of Havilah, Job 29. Job continues now in this fourth chapter of his six-chapter final statement. In this chapter, he'll tell us how good life used to be, and in the next, how bad it is now. Verse 1. Job again took up his parable and said, "Oh, that I were as in the months of old, as in the days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone on my head, and by his light I walked through darkness, as I was in the ripeness of my days, when the friendship of God was in my tent, when the Almighty was yet with me, and my children were around me, when my steps were washed with butter, and the rock poured out streams of oil for me, when I went out to the city gate, when I prepared my seat in the street." Comment in verses 1 to 7, Job says, "Oh, that I could return to the days before all these troubles came on me." Speaking of how the community used to give him respect, verse 8, "The young men saw me and hid themselves. The aged rose up and stood. The princes refrained from talking and laid their hand on their mouth. The voice of the nobles was hushed, and their tongue stuck to the roof of their mouth. For when the ear heard me, then it blessed me, and when the eye saw me, it commended me." Comment Job says, "I was highly esteemed in those days, even by men of high standing." And why was he so respected? Verse 12. "Because I delivered the poor who cried, and the fatherless also, who had no one to help him. The blessing of him who is ready to perish came on me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy." Comment Job helped those who were ready to perish, and they blessed him. Verse 14. "I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was a robe and a diadem. I was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy. The cause of him who I didn't know I searched out. I broke the jaws of the unrighteous and plucked the prey out of his teeth." Comment Job says he was a source of wisdom and a problem solver back in those days. Also, he stood up to those who oppressed the poor and forced them to do the right thing. Back then, Job figured everything would go well for him the rest of his life, as you'll say coming up. Verse 18. "Then I said, I shall die in my own house. I shall count my days as the sand. My root is spread out to the waters. The dew lies all night on my branch. My glory is fresh in me. My bow is renewed in my hand." Comment, back then Job figured he had as many days left as the grains of sand in number. He was flourishing. There was nothing in sight that was going to cut him off. Now speaking again of the respect men gave him in those days, verse 21, "Men listened to me, waited, and kept silence for my counsel. After my words they didn't speak again. My speech fell on them. They waited for me as for the rain. Their mouths drank as with the spring rain." Comment, back then men went completely silent when Job spoke because they wanted to hear every word. They drank his wisdom in like the dry earth soaking up rain. And coming up he was a great encourager, verse 24. "I smiled on them when they had no confidence. They didn't reject the light of my face. I chose out their way and sat as chief. I lived as a king in the army, as one who comforts the mourners." Comment, I chose out their way, meaning I told them what course they should take, and they listened. I was like a chief and like a king among them. My presence was a comfort to them. All that's in the past. Job 30 is next.